Brian, stop the tape.
Okay, Mike. Oh, wait. Rewind that scene, please.
Rewind that scene.
Rewind that scene.
Rewind it.
Rewind that scene. Rewind that scene.
I'm Mike Rizzo.
And I'm Brian Bonds.
And you're listening to Rewind That
Scene. Thanks for listening to the last episode on The Crow. If you haven't checked it out, go back and check that out too when this episode's done.
We really appreciate you guys.
We think you're awesome.
You guys are great. We're having so much fun with our kids buried behind the walls. Today's episode, we have a very, very, very exciting movie, right, Bon?
Yes, it's one of our favorite films. It's haunted us for years. It's got us into the interest of dolls. Riz, tell them what it is.
The original Child's Play, 1988. Beautiful horror film.
Ah, incredible.
Still, instills the fear into us to this day.
Yes, a very cutting-edge horror movie. 1988, Chicago, Illinois.
Cold.
It's about the Lakeside Strangler, Charles Lee Ray.
Which apparently they used 3 killer names to get Charles Lee Ray. Charles Manson.
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah, and Ray something.
Charles Lee Ray is the ultimate fugitive and killer in the south side of Chicago.
Well, it's crazy too, because I feel like, when we saw this film, we were like, what, 7? 8?
Yeah.
Were we even allowed to watch it? I mean, we were probably the age of Andy in the movie. Fucking shit scared.
We were pretty young, and I think, my parents were cool about it, and it felt so real because of them using some great special effects, animatronics, actors. And I remember I got home from school one night, and my dad was on his knees with both of his shoes on his knees. You know when people do that so you look shorter?
Oh, yeah.
And he was in the bathroom with the lights off wearing a CHUCKY mask that his coworker had given him. And my mom was like, wait, you should go use the bathroom and wash your hands. Go. And I went in and he jumped out with a knife and I was scared shitless. I think I still have the photo.
For those of you that don't know Brian's father, he is a mailman, loves blues music, and is an amazing, eccentric weirdo. So it makes perfect sense he would scare the shit out of his son.
So Chucky is this crazy dude, Charles Lee Ray, who is into, Haitian voodoo.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got his buddy Eddie Caputo. And it starts with a great sort of French Connection, car chase scene.
Oh, yeah. It's so funny because, speaking of The Crow, a lot of those, alleyway scenes with the panhandlers kind of feels like there could be a cross-pollination with The Crow and Child's Play,
Yeah.
Has that dirty, gritty scariness and cold factor to it.
It's true. Yeah, both films are dark, man. And I think for 1988, Child's Play is a pretty...
It's prolific, dude, for the time.
I was just, watching it. It's a pretty badass movie, and it's dark. Yeah, there's a lot of, druggies in it, and it's this widowed mom who's, going out to get this doll for her kid, and then her coworker, wants her to take it easy so she can pick up some extra cash because she's a widow.
Right.
It's just fucking sad, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't even imagine what went into to figuring out the technical know-how with rigging the doll and the animatronics and just so much to figure out. It had to take months and months of planning.
Yeah.
I imagine, yeah.
Yeah, we have a ton of great talent and crew from Child's Play to tell you their stories, and I'm really shocked that they even agreed to be on the podcast. I mean, Mike, tell them who's first. It's someone very special.
Oh, yes. So, our first guest that we are extremely excited about is Dinah Manoff, who played Maggie Peterson, the babysitter.
She's a doll.
That gets hit with the hammer and flung out the goddamn window 10 stories to her death. She's also been in very awesome movies. Grease.
Yeah, how could you do that to a cast member from Grease?
I know, right?
Chucky.
Empty Nest, Ordinary People. The list goes on. She's awesome, and let's bring her on. Bon Bon.
Dinah, make me chuckle. What was the appeal about Child's Play, and how did the project come across your desk?
Well, at the time,
Here's my honest answer.
I love it.
Time,
Bring it on.
there were two movies. There was one called Bloodhounds of Broadway and
Yes.
Child's Play. And Bloodhounds of Broadway was this, epic, really interesting Damon Runyon stories. Madonna was doing it, and Jennifer Grey and Randy Quaid and Matt Dillon, and it was like this dreamy project, and it paid no money.
Yeah.
But I really, really wanted to do it. So,
Yeah.
and then there was Child's Play, which was like this kind of really weird horror movie with a doll that I kind of skimmed the script in the beginning, but it paid money. And I thought, well, I can do Bloodhounds of Broadway if I take this Child's Play, because that one will support the other one. And no one's going to see Child's Play, and everyone's going to see Bloodhounds of Broadway. And of course, it ended up being exactly the opposite. Bloodhounds of Broadway just disappeared into I don't know where, like Neverland, and Child's Play became this huge, epic, classic horror film. So that's how it happened.
It's amazing how that happens. Like, I guess you just never know. There's no way to know what's going to be good.
Yeah, you never know. Well, I thought the same thing about Grease. I thought, no one's going to watch this. It's so campy and weird. And
yeah.
What do I know? I know nothing.
Well, Grease is also very special to me because my last name's Rizzo.
Oh, well, aren't you lucky? At least you also have Ratso Rizzo, so you have to go both ways.
Yeah, totally.
It's true. It's true.
What was it like shooting the exchange scene between the homeless man selling the corrupt evil doll to Andy's mom? Because that scene, with you saying, "I think I dated him," is pretty amazing. That little one-liner.
What it was like was cold. It was very, very cold.
Oh no!
I mean, it was Chicago in the winter. I never felt anything like that. It was like unbelievably cold, and we all just wanted to get it done and get inside.
Yeah. Oh wow.
I wish I had a more romantic tale for you, but that's what it was.
It seems like alleyways and nighttime shoots are like that in general.
Yeah. It really is. And Chicago is like, particularly unfriendly.
Oh man.
I'm sure during the winter time. You have this special connection to Karen's character. Like you're always looking out for her. You want the best for her. Like, how did you kind of pull off that good portrayal of this character watching Andy? And like, you're lovable, but you're also kind of tough. Like, did you kind of pull from any inspiration from family, and stuff like that?
No. I was... Aren't I just giving you all the answers you ever wanted?
No, I love this. I love the truth.
We like truth. We like truth and honesty.
Well, Catherine herself is a darling girl. I mean, the actress.
Yes, of course.
She's lovely, and I really liked her a lot. We became, really fast friends on the set, so it was easy to relate to her in a compassionate way. As for, I never babysat in my life. I mean, I was, I was like a really bad juvenile delinquent teenager. So babysitting was not in my repertoire.
Nice.
But I am an actress, and I do know how to act the part of the babysitter. So that's what I did.
That's great.
I think this next question. How is it filming your death scene with the hammer to the face, and like when you read that on the script, were you scared? Were you like, oh shit? Were you like excited for it? Like, it's just an exciting, great build up, and it's also very scary and terrifying. I was scared when I saw that scene.
It was super fun.
Awesome.
I mean that. I mean, it was like, what I really loved was I loved all the horror movie acting stuff I got to do, like the anticipation, like the, where the audience is going, no, don't go around the corner. No, don't walk
yeah.
That was really fun to play. And originally they wanted me to do my own stunt through the window. And not like the real window, but like the where I would fall through. And so they brought it to the set, and I practiced on it and got cut. And so they ended up having a stunt person do the the fall on that side, but I did it, up until falling against the window, and it was really fun. I mean, it was really, like I knew I probably wouldn't have this chance again
Mm-hmm.
to die in a horror film.
Totally.
And then fast forward, and I get the credit of being Chucky's first victim, which is very, very impressive to people that you may never want to impress in your life, but to some people that I've impressed.
Oh yeah, we're impressed by that. We
amazing.
love Chucky.
Like you guys. Like, look, you're so impressed. So there you go.
I love it.
But I do remember that it was a really easy, friendly shoot. Everybody was really charming and easy to work with. Tom Holland was great.
That's great.
And Catherine and Chucky. Chucky was a doll. So
if Chucky was to exist in real life, how would you end up? Like, would you? I feel like you might want some revenge on him, right? In real life.
Oh, I always wished they'd bring Maggie back for revenge. Like, I do think there's a movie there for sure.
I agree.
Maggie's Revenge, I think, is like, goes without saying. Maggie's Revenge is the next movie.
It has to happen.
Hell yeah. Do you have a Chucky doll? Do you have like a Chucky doll, like as memory?
No, but I occasionally do these autograph shows, and I have signed many a Chucky doll.
Yes.
Yeah, many a Chucky doll.
All right. Thank you, Dinah Manoff. That's amazing. She was Chucky's first kill. Isn't that crazy? Also, the thing, too, what I think is amazing, Brian, is that you don't really see a death scene until 23 minutes in. I counted it frame by frame.
Even at 39 minutes in, you have the mom heading down over to the police station, knowing that, Chucky doesn't have batteries in him and shit.
Yeah, oh my God, that battery scene is great. But I mean, even then, it's like 45 minutes into the movie when she realizes the batteries aren't in.
Her son's been taken away to a psych ward and he's not full of shit.
Yeah, but I guess it's like a good dramatic irony where like everyone watching knows the doll's alive, but the characters don't. I guess that's kind of a really cool thing.
Yeah, and she begs Detective Mike Norris to believe her, played by the iconic, awesome, true Chris Sarandon.
Oh, and you speaking of Chris Sarandon, he's here.
Chris, tell me about the life and times of Child's Play days.
The genius of the conception of the character is that it's, probably every person's nightmare when they were kids.
That's for sure.
For things that were in the dark that came alive. Toys, dolls, you name it. I certainly had that kind of experience when I was a kid. With me, it was going to be a single screening of, not a single screening, it wasn't for me, it was in my hometown, but of The Thing from Another World, that great Robert Wise, Christian Nyby movie with James Arness as the monster, and it terrified me for years.
Yes.
The idea that, this thing was coming after me at night. I think every kid has that at some point in their life. And the idea of creating a movie around a doll that comes to life and is malevolent is genius. I think it's just,
Well, Chucky is the reason why we don't buy dolls for our kids.
Amen. Good for you.
I'm still scared, man. Any special moments from any key scenes that you remember, or anything that any takeaways or any special moments that you want to share that maybe people might not know about making the movie?
One special moment for me, I wouldn't call it special as much as uncomfortable, was there was a scene where, if I recall it correctly, because I haven't seen the movie and I can't remember how long. That's how long it's been. Where Catherine is driving away in a cab, and I'm trying to stop her, or she's leaving in a car. I can't remember exactly what the scene was, and I have to walk out and holler after her, stop, don't go, whatever it was. And I walked out, and I'm, the crew are all dressed in Arctic gear.
Yeah.
I'm dressed in an overcoat, vest, and a tie and a jacket, just some long underwear, but no hat, because that would have made the detective look goofy. And I walk out, and just as I'm going to shout after her, a 25, 30 mile an hour wind gust comes off the lake, probably at about 10 below.
Oh, no.
I opened my mouth, and literally, the only thing that came out was, literally froze my friggin' vocal cords.
Oh, my God.
Shit.
Nuts.
I love it. That's crazy.
So bloody cool.
I love it. It was,
man.
You know, it's always a pleasure to hear these little bits and stories from the actor's perspective. You know, you've been in so many great projects too, aside from Child's Play. You know, what's kind of your favorite role? You know, because you're very believable as a detective.
Oh, thanks. Actually, it was kind of exciting because I got a chance to train a bit with Chicago PD and also to go out with a couple of homicide detectives on a number of arrests. It's something I don't think they do anymore just because of liability issues. But back then, it was not such a big deal. And it was a really interesting and sobering experience in a lot of ways.
Oh, that's really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. Got to do weapons training and hang with these guys over a couple of 3 nights, just riding around with them looking for perps.
Yes.
It's just not something that one should take lightly.
Yeah, it's true. And you know, before we wrap up, do you have any sort of life advice that you'd like to share? You know, it's especially right now, it's such a interesting time in the world.
Our lives are busy and productive, and at the same time, we try to take time to relax, and also in times like these to think about how we can give service to others.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially nowadays.
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about coronavirus, but I'm also talking about just the sort of the atmosphere that we live in, where it seems like it's every man for himself. And you can't forget that we live in a community. It's a huge community of billions of people. But if we don't function as a vibrant organism together, we're gonna fail. And since the planet is on such a precarious, pivotal point in history, that means so much more than it ever did.
That's true.
Definitely, yeah, wow. No truer words have ever been spoken, Chris.
Take care of those.
Will. Thanks so much, Chris, for sharing your stories, man. Must have been crazy filming in Chicago during that time. It was brick as fuck.
Yeah, and also just all those scenes, like with the stabbing in the car, almost stabbing him in the crotch. A lot of gunplay, running around the streets of Chicago, or the sets.
He cuts him in the leg, you know, when they get into the house.
That's the thing, there's a lot of leg stabbing, I guess because the doll's, 2 feet high.
Doll. And I remember the commercial when Andy's making that big breakfast that he overdoes the toast in the beginning and puts the lump
and it's like dripping on the floor. Yeah.
It looks so shitty, but I always wanted that, you know? What a good kid.
Yeah.
But that commercial, they had a giant My Buddy doll head on one of the actors in the TV, and I was like, it was like a giant Chucky. I was like, what the fuck, dude? Oh, man.
Oh, that's so cool.
Fucking bizarre, man.
That's like every kid's, Saturday morning cartoons, right? Like I'm getting hooked and obsessed with this new, like, cartoon or doll. So good.
It got me into getting those dolls like Charlie McCarthy and and Lester. We also still have
Lester,
which you could see in The Kisser, I think is featured in
check
there.
out our episode 3 of Bobo Touch Helpline. That's actually Brian's mom's apartment, and she has a fuck ton of dolls.
Yeah.
So we are in the doll world.
We need to get a Child's Play Chucky doll up in that house. She'd love it.
All right, so we have someone very, very incredible waiting on call waiting right now, Star 86. You want to bring him on, Brian? Who do we got?
This guy is iconic. He's the master behind the film. He's got horror dripping from the pores of his skin. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Tom Holland.
Director, writer, bring him on.
Yeah, we're born and raised in South Brooklyn, like Bay Ridge, and
no kidding.
Yeah.
No, my wife's from Bay Ridge.
No, that's amazing.
No, born and raised. She watched the Verrazano Bridge being built out of her bedroom window.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, we're from here. We're born and raised too. So yeah, all of our families are from here too.
I hate you.
How did you get into horror and directing film?
Oh my goodness, what a question. I was trying to figure out how to make films. What I did learn was that you could be an actor. I was 18. I got a 7-year contract to Warner Brothers. Then I was in the actor's studio. They had something called the playwrights wing. I knew how to block the scenes and make them work better than the director writers did. You couldn't get into directing except by writing original scripts. This is like Hollywood that doesn't exist anymore. But we're back in the 70s. I started to sell my screenplays, and movies started to get made, and then I got a job that nobody in Hollywood wanted, and it was a little number called Psycho 2.
Yes.
And I'm extremely fond of that movie. I think it's a brilliant movie, actually. And it was the last gathering of the Hitchcock gang. But I got all these stories, and as a film fan like you guys are, I was just drunk, just with joy, listening to all these people.
Yes.
And Fright Night is really my love letter to horror fans everywhere that had grown up in the late 50s and 60s.
So with that journey, how did you reach Child's Play? And the doll is so famous. And what made you choose a My Buddy doll?
The original screenplay was called Blood Buddy. And you couldn't use Buddy because of the success of the Buddy doll. And that's how I came up with Chucky. It's so hard now because it's been that's 32, 33 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's hard to remember. The original had the idea of a little boy and a doll that came alive, but it was the alter ego of the boy. And nobody in Hollywood would do the screenplay. Every director turned it down. I was in love with a TV movie called Trilogy of Terror. Dan Curtis, when I was doing A Time for Us, Dan Curtis was a couple of floors up doing the soap opera Dark Shadows. And Dan Curtis went on to do a TV movie that you could never get done today off of 3 Richard Matheson short stories. Richard Matheson was a genius, by the way. And one of them was called Prey, I think. And it was a 1.5 foot tall wooden Zoomy doll or something like that came alive, and it was one of the scariest things I ever saw.
Wow.
He put a 16 mil camera on a skateboard, 3 or 4 inches off the ground, and he chased Karen Black around the apartment with the doll's point of view on the skateboard with a 16 mil camera. And whenever it got too silly or terrible, he cut to the point of view of the doll chasing Karen Black. But the doll was at floor level almost because it was a doll. And it was just visually dynamite. And that's why I agreed to do Child's Play, which then was called Blood Buddy. Anyway, I was on that, and I could not come up with a story. The original screenplay was not suspenseful. It had no villain. It didn't have Charles Lee Ray. Anyway, I left it, and I did Fatal Beauty with Whoopi Goldberg. And it wouldn't leave me alone, the idea of what I could do visually with the doll, And that's when I came back, and I created Charles Lee Ray, so there was a villain, and the minute I had that, I think it took me 45 pages before I revealed that Chucky was alive. So that was a very slow burn, and it was sequences a la Hitchcock, where the audience knows, but the people in the movie do not, which is to say the audience knew that Chucky was alive. They knew that Chucky had the soul of a serial killer, Charles Lee Ray, the Lakeshore Strangler, but the audience didn't. And that's the classic Hitchcockian definition of suspense. And I think I did the best visual suspense sequence I've ever did, which I think it's 8 minutes long. It starts when Catherine comes home. She goes to throw away, after leaving her little boy at the police station, Andy, and she comes home and she gets ready, she starts to throw away the box, and the batteries fall out.
Yes.
And up till then, the goddamn doll's been acting and talking and everything else, but all of a sudden she realizes there's no batteries in it. And her little boy has told her the doll's alive, and now she knows the doll is talking and moving with no batteries. And that leads her to pick it up, and, and she drops it. It goes underneath the couch. It's just building suspense. And finally, she lights the fire and threatens to throw the doll in the fire if it doesn't reveal itself. And it does, and it attacks her and it bites her throat. And I think it calls her a dirty bitch or something like that.
Oh, I love that scene.
Yes, that's one of my favorites. So good, so good.
This is before CGI. Nobody had ever tried to animate a doll to the extent that we did. We did it live, in camera, with cables and puppetry. I mean, I think we had 10 or 11 puppeteers on it at one point. I built the stage up, the apartment, that's up in the air about 4 or 5 feet. And the puppeteers are underneath the stage, and they drilled holes in the floor and ran the cables out behind the doll. So when I was shooting the doll head on, you couldn't see the cables. And it was an extreme challenge to do it, to be able to sell Chucky as being really alive. And that's a combination of a little person, Ed Gale, in a Chucky costume, with the set built up larger than life. That, for example, of Ed Gale is in the kitchen when he's talking to the voodoo doctor. It's when he breaks out of the fireplace. That's Ed Gale in a fire suit. I can't remember, but I mean, I used everything I could to try to give the impression that that the doll was alive, which was extremely difficult. And we didn't know what was going to work because nobody had ever tried it before.
That's fantastic. I mean, you guys did an incredible job.
There were so many people on that film, so many technicians. Howard Berger was one of the puppeteers, and Howard Berger is now the guy who works with Greg Nicotero all the time.
It's true.
Yeah.
On Walking Dead. It spawned a whole world of effects artists whose career started with Child's Play. So it was a small miracle. That was, that the miracle, and it's gone on, which is just amazing.
Yeah,
it's true.
So many of them after, right? So many remakes.
Well, in those days, nobody thought about doing sequels.
Yeah.
Or remakes. That was something, you didn't want to do something that had a number on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I turned down Child's Play too. I didn't want to do anything with a number on it.
Right.
I felt like I'd already done it anyway.
That makes sense. Yeah, now they're doing reboots and everything. It's like, now it's a thing. It's crazy.
Well, it's an indication of the creative bankruptcy of Hollywood at the present moment.
Yeah.
But the film itself, it's so realistic. It's really kind of made us be terrified of our, toys and shit in our room growing up. And, I really do think the blend of the, working with Ed Gale and then also the animatronics, you guys did such a great job. Was there a lot of pre-production that kind of went in to map that out and, shooting between, LA and Chicago?
Yes. A huge amount. I mean, I planned the whole thing out. I boarded the whole thing myself.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. Well, we had no idea. I had no idea whether we could pull it off.
Yeah.
And it always required, in order to sell the illusion that the doll was alive, it required those, hey mom, look, no wires, those shots. And that was a combination of Ed Gale and I remember Burnt Chucky was the doll, but the camera shoots the doll head on because right behind the doll were all the cables coming out of the floor. So many things, and it's so finely cut because if you hung another 2 or 3 seconds on a shot, you saw the wires or you or the knife slipped out of the doll's hand or whatever. So it's a lot of it was put together with spit and sealing wax, you know. But it was a lot of fun.
I'm just curious, what was it like directing a kid? Like, I guess Alex Vincent, who plays Andy. I mean, he was like really young, right? I mean, he did a great job. Was it hard to work with a kid?
I think he was like 7 years old. You know, and I've talked to him since, and he has almost no memory.
Wow.
You know?
He doesn't remember it. That's insane.
Well, I was worried that I would somehow, you know, do permanent damage, and to a little kid.
Yeah.
And I got that because of Roddy McDowall. I mean, so much of Roddy's career had been about breaking the taboo of being a child star, and that's the end of your career at 10 years old. And so I think it's extremely hard for very, very young kids to deal with all that. But I mean, it seems to me that Andy, the guys come out okay.
Yeah, it's not scarred for
life.
The fan base was maybe just beginning. I mean, nobody expected Fright Night to be a huge hit. Nobody expected Child's Play to be a huge hit. You're going to make a movie about a kid's doll that comes alive? What a tacky idea that is, you know? Horror was looked down on by Hollywood. You know, it was something that you did to get started, and then you got out of it as quickly as possible. That's not true now.
Wow. And, you know, the ending death scene with Chucky, it's so intense. He's crisp. He's burnt out. You know, that must have been so complicated to shoot. Like, how did you approach that? It's memorable. It's haunted us for a very, very long time.
I'm still scared.
All I know is that after I finished, I did not have a tag. I did not have a last shot. And I know that when I was going through the dailies and looking at it, somewhere in there, I didn't write this, but somewhere in there I realized that little Andy was going to be haunted for the rest of his life by this experience. And that's what that last shot is, of the door closing on him, and I freeze frame with him looking back at the shot up burnt remains of the doll. So, I mean, all of a sudden, out of this horror movie, you have something that says something about the human condition. So I think Child's Play was working on a number of different levels. And the one that should get a lot of credit that never does is Catherine Hicks, who gave a terrific performance, and one of her best scenes ended up on the cutting room floor, which was her pleading for her son in the police station. Because what happened is we went through the previews, they kept getting stronger and stronger, but they got stronger and stronger as I took out the sentiment. As it became obvious that it was a huge hit with those under 30, I cut the movie to move faster. And I started to focus on the scares. Now also, I had the humor, which I was with that because I like that. But you know, I mean, I had some huge laughs in there when that doll says "fuck you" on the elevator as the old couple gets off.
Love that.
That's a huge laugh.
So funny. I love those like one-liners from the doll. They're hilarious. I remember that. Those are the things that stay with me. Yeah.
That was in the script, actually. I wrote a number of those, but not all of them. I know I added the "fuck you" in the elevator. But I mean, I discovered it as I cut it together and previewed it.
Yeah, that all makes sense.
There's a lot of luck involved in every one of these. To have a successful movie, God's got to be on your side. What do you think? Should I teach a film class someday?
I think so. Oh my God, I love everything you're saying. We both went to film school, and like you said, we both grew up just obsessed with movies. So I would take your class in a heartbeat.
Well, you're like me, and I'm like you. Except when I went to Northwestern, they didn't have a film school. They had a theater school. So I went to the theater school. And it wasn't that I wanted to be an actor, it was that there was nothing else out there. The business when I came in was an apprentice business. Everybody got into it and you apprenticed. You worked and you learned by doing. And that included film crews, editing,
You know, Child's Play is such a masterpiece. Were there any fun, memorable stories of shooting scenes or a favorite scene that you have in particular?
God, there must be hundreds, but I can't. I know one of the most difficult scenes was getting Andy to go to tears when he was in the mental institution, when he knew the doll was coming up and going to attack him.
Oh.
And nobody would believe him. He was crying out the window and asking, and it was all I did. It was terrible having to break. You can't ask the kid. You couldn't tell him to cry. He couldn't get there. So I just had him do it again and again and again until he cried. And it was very moving to see, but like, Jesus, I hated doing it. I remember that.
Yeah.
Damn, yeah, I bet.
Trying to get the doll to carry a butcher blade, to carry a knife in his hand was almost impossible because there wasn't the tensile strength in the fingers. And so the knife was wired on his hand. And you couldn't see the wires, but that's how we got the knife to stay there. Because it was no CGI and it was all live in camera, it gave a reality to it that I think you don't get when you start using, digital. You believed it was a puppet, and yet at the same time it was a puppet that came alive. But it was never so smooth. Somehow there's a reality to it because it was all in camera.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, you're right. That's what makes it so realistic and so horrifying. I love all the practical, like, in-camera stuff. I've always thought that was the way to go, I mean, I guess films now take shortcuts.
Well, it is, and I prefer it, but it's much more expensive, so that's why you get what you do. Everything looks like a video game now, but it's become accepted because they're not seeing anything else. But at the same time, film gave a dream state, it gave an ambiance that is all its own that you don't get with the sharpness of digital. So.
Okay, this is a really important question to Brian and I. If Chucky was a real person, how would you kill him?
Good question. The way I did it in the script was you couldn't kill him until you shot his heart out, because his heart was the only thing that was human. You're laughing. What do you guys think?
Exactly.
What?
No, it's great. It makes sense because you wrote it.
It's true, and you already have killed him. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the cards said, well, we know this is being set up for an obvious sequel. So I thought to myself, well, I'm going to make sure that there is no sequel to this movie. Yes. Which shows you how dumb I was. But I mean, look what I did to that doll at the end. I ripped its arms off. I ripped the leg off. I tore his head off. I burned him. And finally, I shot his heart out and had the blood splatter in the back wall.
Yeah, there's no coming back.
Yeah, I did everything I could to kill that doll on screen. And yet all the preview cards kept saying, well, we know there's going to be a sequel. So, and now here we are, 30 some years later, and all they've done is sequelize the goddamn thing.
Yeah.
And now they're going to do a television series, I read. Oh my God.
I can't believe that, yeah.
It's true.
Studios, the powers that be, always try to mitigate risk. Okay, it's all about putting that money in with the highest chances of getting it back, which means tent poles, which means something that's an established brand name, buying best-selling books. I mean, so that's always been the way that Hollywood has gone. But during the 70s and in through the late 80s, it opened up to original screenplays because of the success of things like Easy Rider. I'd say Jaws too, but Jaws was like 73, but that was a huge best-selling book. But that's an example too, how to make that stupid shark work. There was maybe a 15-year period when I was really productive, when original screenplays were a way to go. And I enjoyed doing that. And now everything's become like an echo of everything that's gone before it. The other thing that's going on is the bigger your audience gets, the smoother and the more homogeneous the product has to become. So as Hollywood's become a worldwide business and they're no longer making films for America, they're making films for a global audience, you have to create product that will travel around the world, even in the face of different languages. So your movies become more and more anodyne, which is a big word for boring. So, all those things are working. We're probably on, we're talking now in May, beginning of May of 2020, and we're all shut down with COVID. And you've seen the huge success of streaming, and they just started releasing big feature films on pay-per-view, and I think they had a huge success with Trolls. So that may, because it's a business of economics, of commerce, that may be echoing the death of the movie house. And then I'm going to feel really terrible because one of my great pleasures was going to movies. And yours too.
Yeah. Same. So sad. I know. I've been reading up on that.
Well, you may be sitting at home watching, movies and not going to a movie theater. Who's going to want to go into a crowded movie theater with COVID around?
Oh man, that was incredible insight. Thank you so much, Tom Holland, for sharing all that. Half that stuff I didn't even know, and wow.
You rock Bobo. You rock Bobo touch.
You rocked us, Tom. Please check out his first novel that he just released on cemeterydance.com/the-notch.html. You demand, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. And we also want to give some respect to one of the writers that was involved with Tom, John Lafia, who passed away actually a day after we recorded that interview with Tom Holland. So we just want to send some respect. A lot of creative minds behind this film. A lot of people don't know that it's not just the director or the writer. It's the first AD, the second AD, the wardrobe, the people doing catering, the people who are, making sure that talent can park their car, the craft service table. You got baby Andy Barkley. It's all crazy. So, it's a true team.
That's true. All these people make it happen, and everyone puts in so many hours on these film sets. And especially something like Child's Play. This was all hands on deck, major teams, just a beast of a job. So major props to everyone.
One thing too, I didn't realize that, and consider me naive because I was young and stupid, but I didn't realize, and of course I should have, because the movie is, it has a budget, it's made by a studio, and literally it's Hollywood. So I didn't realize that the film was shot in Chicago and Los Angeles. I thought it was, for some reason, I thought the entire film, just based on its exterior and just how well they captured it. But it makes sense that all the shit that goes down in the house is in LA, and it's always interesting to hear those stories. Riz, why don't you tell them who we have next?
Oh, on that note about all the crews and people keep the film set happy and running, the first AD is someone who's very valuable and wrangles everyone and keeps the shit running tight. Just like Arthur Anderson, the first AD of Child's Play, who's waiting on the line, call waiting again. You there? Arthur Anderson?
Break it down, Arthur.
How did you get involved with Child's Play?
Well, Barry Osborne, who we worked on a film together called The Escape Artist. It was the first film that Caleb Deschanel directed, and Barry was the production manager on that, so I knew Barry from that. So he called me to come in to help out on the mechanical effects unit on Child's Play, because you have to remember, back in 1987, 88, visual effects are very expensive. So for this first Chucky doll, there wasn't a lot of visual effects involved. It was a lot of mechanical effects. And when I mean mechanical effects, I mean like when the doll was walking down the hallway, there would be a small trolley. So the unit I worked on did all the shots of the doll, usually by itself or working with stuntmen. So there was the doll itself, which was, a Chucky-sized doll. And so if the doll was going to walk down the hallway, what we'd do, we'd mount on the end of a trolley, and then there'd be like 6 guys on the back of this trolley with monitors. So one would control the head going back and forth, another would control the arms, There'd be another guy in the servos controlling the eyeballs. So, I mean, it was really old school mechanical effects. And then, so we'd set up this trolley. The guys would get on the trolley. The doll would go down the hallway. All these guys would be working on this. And then we'd play it back to see if it looked real. And Tom Holland would be shooting on the stage next door. And we would take the work we'd done and go over, show it to him. He'd make adjustments from there. And so, but it was the reason why you bring in a unit to do that. It's very expensive to have 100 people sitting around watching these guys do mechanical effects, where if you can put a second unit together with a team of about a dozen people, and then they can go over and spend hours on the set getting all the details right, and you save a lot of money doing that.
Wow. That's crazy. That's, it's good insight. What was the chemistry like on set with the rest of the team? Did you bond with any particular cast members or the crew members? I know that this was kind of early on, and you mentioned that you kind of like learned a lot too. So always curious to know what the vibe was like.
Well, all my work was mainly done on stage. So I wasn't really involved in a lot of the exterior work when they were back on the East Coast doing all that stuff. My work was mainly when we came back to L.A., and I want to say we were at Culver Studios or someplace like that. And so all my work was done on stage. And the cast was great. And Tom Holland, the director, was great. I mean, they had a really good cast. The crew was great to work with. It was a great film to work on, And listen, it's difficult too, because you're dealing with a doll mechanical effects, and the actors are having to act sometimes against things they don't even see. That's where an actor's craft really comes in. Okay, act really scared. Okay, we've got to build the tension up here. Okay, now when you come around the corner, you're going to see this and act really surprised. So it's difficult on the cast because a lot of times you're reacting to the things you don't see. Tom was a great writer, and he was a master of combining apprehension, suspense, fear, panic, horror, anguish, and Catherine Hicks she's a great actress, and I mean really has to carry a lot of that because for every movie, it doesn't matter if it's a horror movie or what, it's all about tension, right? And the tension is derived between the battle between hope and fear. So you're hoping the best for this characters. You're always fearing the worst is going to happen to them. And then when you add the element of an innocent child in there, it's like the mother bear and her cub. You know what I mean? So good tension in any movie is derived between the battle between those two elements, hope and fear. And in a horror film, you're really building on that fear, on the suspense and the anguish the character's going through. And so you're hoping they're going to survive, and then there's always the fear that, because Chucky kept coming back. You'd shoot him, he'd get up, he'd crawl through a vent, he'd hide, because it was possessed by, a demonic spirit. So it would just never, give up. So Tom did a great job of writing that into this script, that combination, that constant tension that drove the movie. I mean, right up until the last second, And I think the toy manufacturers really had a problem with the movie that year because I don't think they sold any large dolls anywhere.
Yeah, I imagine.
I know. When I walked through a toy store, I would always stay away from the large dolls. After that, I just didn't trust them.
Holy crap, I didn't know that he also worked on John Woo's Face Off.
Oh, yeah.
But it's crazy that Tom would divide time with having, Arthur's crew making sure they were mastering how Chucky was doing what he does down the hall while they were shooting another scene with Catherine Hicks and Alex Vincent. It's just so interesting. I really love knowing this stuff, and I think the reason why we started this podcast was to be a fly on the wall. So
yeah, I love it. So good, man. Speaking of that, what's your favorite scene in Child's Play, Bon?
Oh man, I really love the battery scene with Catherine Hicks when she, pulls out and she sees that Andy isn't full of shit and his batteries are gone in the doll.
Yeah.
And, his head whips around and says, "Hi, I'm Chucky. Heidi ho."
And I think the line is, "You stupid bitch, you filthy slut." Something like that.
Yeah. He says, you fucking slut.
and it's just great because that's everyone can't wait for him to just fucking attack at that point. Right?
Yeah, it's true. And the older you get and see this movie, you're like, well, it's just a doll. But then, like, when you see what he's capable of, you're also like, fuck, well, if this was true, this possessed little fucking piece of shit would probably get a few knife stabs in or be able to, like, set your house on fire and run away.
Yo, I also love all those, like, low-angle point of view, like, rushing towards Eddie Caputo's house and all the point of view angles.
Oh, it's so good.
So fucking scary.
You know what I also love, too? They do that, I realize, when Catherine Hicks, her character Karen, comes home and she's looking for Andy and sees all the police after the babysitters. It's so frantic because you're in her POV for a second all of a sudden. And
you know what else is good, too? There's also, like, little snap zooms on the batteries and, like, on, like... Yeah, it's cool. Just kind of adds to it.
I think Chucky himself is in the lineup of Michael Myers.
Oh, definitely.
Jason, he's always celebrated as this fucked up killer. So what's your favorite scene?
The battery one was, I think, definitely up there for the suspense and, like, rooting along, like, oh, he's fucking gonna finally come to life. And she's gonna, like, agree with her son finally. But I really love the voodoo guy.
Yeah, John.
Yeah. I love that scene just because of the whole voodoo thing and like just things really boil up.
That's a good one. Oh yeah, I mean it really is stems down to the core essence of what Charles Lee Ray was up to prior. What
I'm gonna go with that scene, man.
Well, I feel captivated enough by that scene as well, so I think it's time we do a reread.
Rewind. Rewind. Burn. Hello, John. Over here. Hi. It's me, Chucky. What do you think? The gree work? You know, when I came here learning all that stuff about how to beat death, I thought maybe you were pulling my chain. But not now. Not now. Only one problem.
What?
This. I didn't think anybody could hurt me. But last night I got shot. You know something? It hurt. It hurt like a son of a bitch. I even bled. Now why is that, Sean?
You're turning human.
What?
The more time you spend in that body, the more human you become.
You mean I have to live throughout the rest of my life in this body? No fucking way! You got me into this, you get me out.
I can't do that, Chucky.
Why not?
Because you're an abomination, an outrage against nature. You perverted everything I've taught you and used it for evil. And you have to be stopped.
You know, I thought something like this might happen. That's why I prepared for it. Your own personal mojo, Doc. Sure. How do you want it? Broken leg? Shouldn't tell your customers where you hide things like this, John. Gets you in trouble every time. Now how do I get out of this body? Yeah? Tell me or die, John. Your choice!
No, I'll tell you. You have to transfer your soul out of the doll into the first human being you've revealed yourself to.
You mean the first person I let in on the fact that I was really alive?
Yes.
I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. The first person I let in on my little secret was a 6-year-old kid. I'm gonna be 6 years old again. Well, John, it's been fun, but I gotta go. I have a date with a 6-year-old boy. And you have a date with death. So long, John. Footsteps run away. Woo, sirens. Woo.
I love that scene, Riz. That scene is so special to us.
Cool. I remember watching that being like, you know, cringing and hurting watching the limbs break.
Yeah, I think it's the first movie I ever saw voodoo action go down in, and You know, that goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning of this episode. This movie, I'm pretty sure my parents let me go to the video store and just take out. My cousins watched it a lot, and it almost felt like this could be something that could happen to you.
Yeah.
It probably, if you were our age, you should have seen it.
Yeah. Another crazy scene, too, Bon, is the electrocution scene. Not for remixing or rereading, but I remember watching that when I was little and just like how the guy's face discoloring when he's getting electrocuted in the prison.
Great makeup.
Yeah, great makeup. Just like so fucked up. How many close-ups they show of just his face changing colors and burning.
Yeah.
Oh man, scarred for life.
It's true. It fucked me up, man. That and like the liquid coming out of his mouth and the like red makeup under his eyes, just so gross.
Another thing that's cool is that we actually included your son as a little Chucky in one of our PSA videos. Cut the line.
That's how much we've loved Chucky. We bought a little overall suit and got a Chucky shirt. From Hot Topic, and a little wooden knife from the kitchen set we have, and it was great.
Man, I think we learned a lot from everyone, and this has been amazing to hear all their stories and how the craft came to be. Also, it's great because I feel like nobody knew how big of a success this was going to be.
Yeah.
I'm sure Tom and them knew that they had something gold, but you don't know until it's like out there in the world,
Yeah, it's true.
Well, yeah, I guess I want to just thank everybody for listening. Follow us on social media at Bobo Touch, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We have a lot of sketch videos and web series that we've been working on as well.
Yes, and stay healthy and stay clean and watch these movies and connect with us on social media. Reach out to us, say hello, tell us what you've been cooking, tell us what you've been watching, and we're excited to tell you about our next movie on our next episode when we rewind that scene.
Special thanks to Ruben Dax for mixing and mastering.
Yes, and also to all of our friends in the universe that give us our energy. We have a lot of good friends out there that really put in the good juju. It's good to surround yourself with good people, so thank you. And
it's all about that juju and surrounding with positivity energies like me and Brian.
I want you to tweet at us, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Email us. I want to know how you would kill Chucky if he came into your home.
Chucky needs to be stopped. Tell us how you would do it. Love yous.
Love yous.
We're always there for yous.
Bye-bye.
Bye.